Greetings, happy Friday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I'm Steve Deace. He's Todd Erzin. He's Aaron McIntyre. She is Sara Gonzales, our beloved friend and colleague. You'll be hearing more from her in a moment. And we are brought to you by our friends over at Angel Studios. Today's the big day, their latest offering in theaters starring Mr. Angel Studios, Neil McDonough himself. The Last Rodeo hitting theaters now, and it's got a high bar to clear because it's the follow-up to what I think is an absolute masterpiece in The King of Kings. But The Last Rodeo from the studio that brought you The King of Kings and also Sound of Freedom and more is an action-packed story of a retired rodeo star. He's the oldest guy ever to get into the arena, and he is doing it in order to save his grandson. It's going to be action-packed, dramatic, but because it's from Angel Studios, that have a redemptive element as well. If you want to get tickets now, because Memorial Day weekend's one of the busiest weekends of the year at the box office, you can just get them directly from us at angel.com/Steve. Angel.com/Steve is where you can go, at angel.com/Steve. And then also don't forget right now, your chance to get a discounted subscription to Blaze TV, easy for me to say, a discounted subscription to Blaze TV if you use code DACE at blazetv.com/DACE. All the exclusive content that we do for you each and every day, the entire network available to you for the cost per month of one of those coffees that, let's be honest, you're probably buying like every single day. All right. So blazetv.com/DACE, code DACE for $20 off, comes down to $8 a month, 26 cents a day. I got to believe, listen, I don't have a really high opinion of myself. I kind of do. But I got to think I think Todd would even agree I'm worth 26 cents a day. Todd, your thoughts? And yeah. I don't mean in a Lindsey Graham sort of way. I mean like in a content sort of way. I just wanted to clarify.
I'm a ride or die coattails guy, so 26 cents a day,
seems reasonable.
You know?
Sarah, you think I think I'm worth at least 26 cents a day. Sarah, what do you think?
You know what? I'm going to go 50. Okay,
50. There you go.
I'm gonna almost yeah. Let's double it.
All right, 50 cents a day. I can live with that. Absolutely. All right, so blazetv.com/DACE, code DACE for the discount. But we won't even charge you 50 cents a day. It'll just be 26 cents a day. And with that, it is time for the Deace Group. Your weekly look at the week that was begins, as it traditionally does, with issue 1. Bleep. Lord Nefarious says.
You are back in the middle of a political firestorm.
Yeah, for walking on the beach with my wife.
Darwin is the kind of prophet of sexual liberation.
My issue with a lot of cis women as a trans woman is that a lot of them swear up and down they are like an ally, but there has been multiple times where I have went out with some friends and I walk in the room, baby, everybody knows I'm a tranny. I went to this girl's birthday at a club and every single guy that was a part of that group was talking about me being a tranny. Every single guy was like, oh yeah, that's a man.
This election has proven, that this administration has proven painfully in some ways, is that Black people cannot save this country from white folks.
And if you dig underneath, you eventually find Darwin. For centuries upon centuries, gay people were persecuted and oppressed because of this mythological idea about sex, that sex was created by God for the purpose of procreation.
Some carry hate. We carry the largest trans pride flag to ever be flown in a national park and unfurled it on the side of El Cap to prove a point that trans is natural.
Detractors that will push back on me and say, the only thing that the mayor talks about is the hiring of Black people. No, what I'm saying is when you hire our people, we always look out for everybody else. We are the most generous people on the planet.
If you use sex for anything else, you're sinning against the purpose of the thing, so you must be punished. And then Darwin came, and Darwin said, in biology, there are no purposes. Nothing has any purpose in biology. In biology, there are only causes.
As a non-binary person, my transition goal is to be so androgynous that nobody can tell what my assigned gender at birth was. And so the most affirming thing that can happen to me, and it happens all the time, is when a transphobic person comes at me, either in person or online, and they're like, "You'll always be a man."
You have a different standard based upon the color of somebody's skin. Would that be acceptable?
Well, I'm not the one arguing that. Apparently you are, because you don't like the fact that they're white, and that's why they're coming.
But if you had read the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025, despite Trump saying he knew nothing about it, if you had read it, it's all in there. It's all in there. Return to the family, the nuclear family, return to being a Christian nation, return to, producing a lot of children, which is sort of odd because the people who produce the most children in our country are immigrants.
$10,000 a month. And really, you look at me, I'm from Youngstown, Ohio. How have you cut all these cuts? How the hell would I be able to shop at your store?
I think I speak for many in this audience when I say, absolutely, those who agree with Hillary Clinton should put off having families. Maybe permanently. Let's get to the first question. Sarah, ladies first and guests first. You meet both criteria. So what was the most depraved thing that you just witnessed and why?
Steve, it's always so tough when I come on the Deace Group and you guys are trying to nail me down on what was the most evil, the most despicable thing that I just watched, because you guys do too good of a job showing me the most disgusting, depraved things. But I got to go with Forest Ranger Tranny.
Wow.
Just something about the beard and also the makeup that just really trans is natural.
Trans is naturally says with a beard and makeup. Yes, you got to love that. Yes.
Right. With the beard and the makeup and the trans is natural. That's why I have to, get breast implants and take hormones and do all of the surgically put in a fake vagina in order to become a woman. But other than that, it's totally natural. I'm just going to say just that image I will never get out of my mind. And for that reason, I'm going to have to call it the most depraved.
Sarah, I got to agree with you. Okay. I mean, I'm here every week. All right. I'm here every week, no matter who sits in that fourth chair you're in right now. Right. And even I, as calloused as I am at Aaron's ability to dig up the deep abscesses of depravity in our culture, when I saw Farmer Tranny there, or Sheriff or whatever the hell that guy, Ranger Tranny was there, I blurted out when the mic was off, "What the hell is that?" All right. That was my involuntary reaction to that visual. Todd, what about you?
I got to go with Yuval Harari, because as depraved as his normal AI stuff has been, which is kind of his arrival on the scene, there was at least a certain, secular survival of the fittest logic that he was carrying through. But now, do you even Darwin, bro? There's no purpose to Darwinism. Has he not heard about survival of the fittest? I mean, he was like maxing it out to the nth degree when we first knew him, and now he's just like whistling past the graveyard. I don't know, man. You gotta pick a lane, dude.
See, Darwin would say that a cause is survival of the fittest, and that the cause is a result of the effect, right? So the effect would be the scarcity of resources and species, and therefore there is the struggle of favored species and races for survival that leads to the cause of survival of the fittest. That's what he believes. Okay, you see purpose in that because you see a purpose into the universe. He does not.
I see.
He's talking about capital P purpose.
But he sees like that, the AI stuff. I mean, it was terrible, but it was like this ruthless efficiency. And now he's just like, but it's nice to have, like the gays are flowers or something like that. He's like, but they pretty up the place, so it's all cool. Like, you got to pick a lane, man.
Aaron, what about you?
You know what? For the second week in a row, let's go with the troon, who says that he hates cis women because they always think of themselves as allies, he says. But whenever they take me to their parties, all the actual dudes at their party, can sniff from a mile away that I'm an actual dude. Again, 2 weeks in a row. Last week, oh, my passport, I spend all this money mutilating myself, and the passport says male still. And now this week, all the dudes can instantly tell I'm a tranny. I think that takes the cake. But, of course, just the doctrines of demons, just to underscore what Todd was saying there, the doctrines of demons coming from Yuval Noah Harari. Is that a flex? Is that the spirit of the age, flexing, saying, this is what we really believe? Hey, mask off. It's me, the devil. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do about it? Or
total purposelessness.
Total purposelessness, yep. Capital P purpose. Or is it a matter of, oh, crap, we've exhausted every single lie and deception so far. You all kind of saw right through it. I feel threatened, so might as well just get the chips on the table.
Let's tell the truth.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, again, to me, I took Harari as an example of them just saying out loud now the kinds of stuff that when I first started in this business, we had to translate for the audience. Here's what they really mean when they say these things, right? That's essentially, now they just say it out loud. Now they just say, hey, there literally is no purpose. There's no meaning, deeper meaning to life whatsoever. And you are nothing more than the sum of your behaviors, impulses, emotions, desires, attractions, etc. There's nothing more happening other than that. Nothing. So eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. All right, let's get to the exit question on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay. With 1 being the odds that our lovely and beloved sister and colleague, Sara Gonzales here, has to worry about being sexually harassed by Lindsey Graham. And 10 being the odds that her ruggedly handsome husband, Stephen, does. He does. Yeah. Make sure to tell Stephen to watch his 6, Sarah. Watch his 6! All right?
Don't drop the soap.
That's right. Stand up. I almost said stand erect, and I didn't want to do that. All right. So with that, what's your number, Todd? But I did. I did. Todd, what's your number?
Steve,
I did. Yes.
Steven's in witness protection right now. It's a 10.
It's a 10. What about you, Sarah?
Yeah, I've got just a residual from watching the compilation. Yeah, it's a 10 for me.
Aaron?
That's a 10.
Folks, before we get to topic 2, Select Quote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage going back over the last 40 years since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and then even cover you less. But that's not what happens with Select Quote's licensed agents. They work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs, and they do it in as little as 15 minutes. So if you've worried about pre-existing conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, they can help you with those as well. So get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/Steve. Go to selectquote.com/Steve to get started today. That's selectquote.com/Steve. All right, let's get to issue 2. Maha's big week.
After hints for a couple of weeks, FDA Commissioner Marty Makary, along with Biologics Evaluation and Research Director Vinay Prasad, published a paper in the New England Journal of Medicine this week, indicating what the FDA and CDC's next moves might be when it comes to the COVID jab. No recommendation for the COVID jab for those under the age of 65 in most circumstances. Makary and Prasad say the U.S.'s guidance of COVID jabs for everybody over the age of 6 months is out of step with the rest of the world and likely no longer needed. Then Senator Ron Johnson, chair of the Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations, released a damning report about the Biden administration's cover-up of severe side effects from the COVID jab.
So when I finally had a meeting with Francis Collins, head of NIH, with a group of other senators, I asked him, are you watching VAERS? I gave him those stats. He did admit that 6 deaths were associated with the J&J vaccine, but for the other over a few thousand deaths, he said, standard people die. That was his callous reaction. That was the head of the NIH completely blowing off the VAERS system that they had touted before they got the emergency use authorization. I'll continue. From May 17th to May 21, 2021, CDC officials discussed whether to issue a formal health warning called a Health Alert Network message on myocarditis, noting that, quote, providers aren't reporting these cases to VAERS. They knew they weren't. They knew they existed. They knew they weren't reporting them. A couple days later, during a May 24, 2021 vaccine safety meeting, notes show that FDA and CDC officials asked, quote, is VAERS signaling for myopericarditis now? and are told for the age groups 16 to 17 years and 18 to 24 years, yes. Yes, they saw a safety signal in VAERS, yet from May 25th to May 27th, CDC officials provide up-to-date information on the status of the Han to Pfizer and Moderna representatives. Not to the public. They're warning the injection manufacturers, indicating CDC's preference to keep those companies more informed about vaccine adverse events than the American people.
Also, yesterday, RFK Jr. presented, along with the president, a Maha Commission report on childhood health. Here are some of the bullet points from that report, by the way. More than 40% of American children have at least one chronic health condition. Again, chronic is usually behaviorally or environmentally induced, not something that is a clinical condition. Since the 1970s, rates of childhood cancer have soared by 50%. In the 1960s, 5% of children were obese. Now the number is over 20%. Just a few decades ago, 1 in 10,000 children had autism. Today, that number is 1 in 31. As much as 70% of the food consumed by children contains ultra-processed ingredients. The commission also questioned the current U.S. childhood vaccine protocol and their lack of rigorous clinical trial designs. There's been a 1,400% increase in antidepressant prescriptions for kids between 1987 and 2014. All right. So the commission now has about 80 days to publish a strategy for how the federal government should respond to these and some of its other findings. So, Todd, we have talked about Maha here on the show for the last week or two, some of the divisions that we're showing over some of the lack of action on the COVID vaccines and the decision to hire Casey Means as the new Surgeon General, et cetera. So now I'm wondering if the events of this week were enough maybe to get everybody back on the same page. What say you?
I doubt it. I doubt it. Because look at these successes coming up, but these successes are terrible revelations. And the Maha world is full of a lot of people that they have their opportunity, and over their dead body, are they going back to the way things were? So, I mean, you might have a temporary reprieve, but had not this, I'd err on the side of yes, had not Ron Johnson just did what he did along with Peter McCullough. But, in the face of this, people aren't just going to do the safety dance anymore. The Maha folks are some of the most principled and driven people that you'll ever meet. And this just threw gasoline onto the fire. I mean, they're going to be aggressive in how they go forward with that. And that's going to cause yet more conflict even within, because
what are the solutions may cause conflict. Where do we go in response, right? There's going to be division about that.
Yeah. So, and listen, I do understand it. And quite frankly, it's the divisions within Maha are off because God bless Donald Trump. Here's the problem. Maha wouldn't be where it is without Donald Trump. But Donald Trump wouldn't be where he is without Maha. And there's a tension. They're not the same people. And with the appointments, they get frustrating. And so sometimes they make each other more powerful, but sometimes they're like the Avengers in Civil War. And that's just how it's going to be going forward.
So sometimes it's Avengers Assemble, sometimes it's Avengers Civil War.
Yeah.
Sarah, is what Todd says. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't blame Secretary Kennedy. I don't envy his position. He's obviously in a really precarious situation. Because if you want to make huge change, especially in this avenue, it has to be, in my opinion, you have to come at it incrementally, so as to not scare anyone off, so as to not, the normies, as we would call them. You don't want to scare them off of, what he is finding. The problem with that is, to Todd's point, you have all of these Maha people who none of this is a shock to them. All of what happened in the commission report, all of what they wrote, it's like all of these Maha people have been screaming this from the rooftops for years now. Yes, of course we're over medicating our children. Yes, of course the ultra processed foods are hurting our kids. Yes, of course we need to look into vaccines. Yes, of course we need to look into the safety protocol. calls. And so they, of course, want action much more quickly than I think Secretary Kennedy is prepared to deliver, only because he has to go through the proper steps and the mechanisms. And unfortunately, because Maha has been, on this for so long, it's kind of almost like gaslighting them, I think, is how they feel. Yeah. And so I don't envy his position. I actually think he's making the right call by doing this incrementally, because he knows that he has to have his ducks in a row. And I have to believe this man that I have followed for over a decade on this particular subject matter, who I truly do believe him when he says that for 20 years, he bent down on, he knelt down by his bed and he prayed to God to put him in a position to where he could solve the childhood, sickness epidemic. I believe that he is going to do that, and he is going to do exactly what he says that he wants to do, as long as nobody gets in his way. So I believe in his intention. I believe in his navigating of that. I just think that it's just a very difficult situation that he has to navigate, and he has to get to things incrementally and do things the right way. And unfortunately, Maha is not so patient, and I can't blame them either.
Aaron? Well said, Sarah.
That is very well said, yeah. Because given the moment, pick any given moment or any given day, and I could find myself erring on one side of the Avengers Assemble, Avengers Civil War dichotomy here. So, and I think Todd and Sarah just perfectly articulated why that is the way that it is. Here's something that I do know, however, and I think, Sarah, the last time you were here was for our year-end Deace Group, and I think my New Year's resolution was I'm not going to nitpick the incoming Trump administration. When, if they're worthy of criticism, that's fine, but I don't like the way you said this. I don't like the way this is happening. This is one of these instances. What I do know, I think, is not helpful at all is constant and I see this from some people associated with Maha, nearly constant sky is falling rhetoric. That doesn't do anyone any good, except for those who are perpetually not just aggrieved by the injustice, but just aggrieved, just in general, as a temperament. Mm-hmm. I see that way too often. And I'll just tell you, I don't think that's helpful for your cause. I don't think that's helpful really to anybody around you. That's not to say, hey, everything that they do is just, they just tiptoe between the raindrops. No, but I see this constant inclination. I think it's driven not so much by RFK Jr., not so much driven by some of the forces at work within Maha that I think are largely working for the good. I do think it's the guy who appointed RFK Jr., and I think that just, again, perpetually drives people nuts for all the wrong reasons.
I mean, this is... What we talked about is why I said at the beginning of the year, as hard as it was to put this coalition together to win this last election, it's going to be even harder to maintain it. Okay, and what I think Sarah said it very well. Who's right? Hey, more needs to be done and quicker. All right, correct. We're in a coalition. And we're a significant part of said coalition, but coalition means it's not unilateral here. We have to work with people here. And what can we actually accomplish, considering we also have decades of embedded... I mean, dude, we all just watched, a large section of the room get up and walk out on their own boss when Jay Bhattacharya said, yeah, I know you guys built the built the virus. I know. And we're gonna prove that to you. They just got up and walked out on their boss. Right? That's a snapshot of the bureaucracy that all these guys are working with and trying to implement even the stuff that we're seeing within that. Okay. On top of that, again, if we're just going to be brutally honest, there are some complicated politics here where the president and the jab are concerned. Okay. Because now that Trump had won, the media would, after shilling for Pfizer all this time, they'd love to turn right around and say, well, see, Mr. Trump, your own health secretary said you created a vaccine that didn't work and harm people. What do you have to say about that? Because there's no fairness. There's no objective truth. It's all duplicitous, right? And so that creates, even on our own side, a lack of incentive at times to tell the truth for fear that it's going to be a one-sided transaction. You know what I mean? That there's no one's going to say thank you for telling us the truth as much as how can we use that against you now after we were lying about this for every point until right now when you finally told the truth about it. So this is a very complicated process. And then I think you have to throw in another angle, Sarah, as well. And that is, and see, so I'm new to this. So there are some names I know. I've met RFK Jr. I know Peter McCullough. There are some names I know. But there's a lot of other people that have real followings. I don't know who they are at all. Okay. And I look at their follower accounts and I don't know who they are. And see, I don't know, are they just really pissed off because Casey Means got an appointment and they didn't? because Marty Macri got an appointment, and whoever they were going to go work for, that was going to make them the undersecretary of the undersecretary of the secretary of the undersecretary there, didn't get it. You see what I'm saying? We don't know those angles either. So are you just, is this a urination contest to you because you're not the one who got picked? Those are all mitigating factors here that are just very difficult to navigate, because a lot of people's answers are probably right at any given point, even if they're necessarily not for the right reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I don't want to disclose who this person is, just not to violate their privacy or cause any problems. But I had someone who I was speaking to, and it very much was a urinating contest. It very much was like, I'm more Maha than this person, and this person shouldn't be here. In fact, I should be the one who is in charge of HHS, and I should be the one who's running things, because I've been uncovering things about COVID before anyone else. And I mean, the list goes on of people who think that they're more highly credentialed than another person. And then it becomes just a jealousy issue rather than what is the best strategic way that we can move the ball, that we can, advance the agenda to make sure that, everyone should be healthy here in America, but most importantly, our children. What is the most strategic way that we can come together and make sure that when RFK leaves office, when President Trump leaves office, I hope to God we have a President J.D. Vance or someone else to continue the progress that's being made, but we don't know that. It's not for certain. So what can we do so that when RFK Jr. leaves office, we have positioned America to be the healthiest that it has ever been? And that, unfortunately, is not what it's about for a lot of people within this movement.
I will say, with everything we just talked about, though, this is a very strong week overall.
Yeah.
Aaron Siri, I was kind of wondering if he was still alive. Okay. He's kind of come out of hiding. He actually testified at Senator Johnson's panel this week as well about what's going on with VAERS and some of the faulty reporting and data we've been seeing. And so, I kind of think, if you're not happy this week, I'm not saying the mission is over. All right, I'm not saying we're on the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay and the Japs just surrendered unconditionally. I didn't say the war is over. Okay, but if you don't feel like you at least got a midway level battle win today, if not, Guadalcanal. This overall was a very strong week, I thought.
You're absolutely right. But remember, the strong weeks right now are still without consequences. That's what drives them nuts. You find out all this stuff, and it's just more and more clear, like Sarah said, what we've known all along. They're poisoning us on purpose. They lied about college football games and the disease causing myocarditis. So therefore, we had to shut down college football.
We all watched a guy for the Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football pass out, and then they made us pretend that that never happened. Correct. Yes.
They only said that thing about we have to shut down college football for myocarditis because they knew the vaccine was going to cause myocarditis, and so they had to get out front with a whole psyop to prepare you, so you look the other way. And so we had a successful week restating the facts that many of us have known all along. And yes, that's successful, but it makes some of us crazy that no one's in prison yet. So if we really want the crazy to stop, somebody must pay dearly.
Aaron, I feel like I saw you yesterday share a meme with a guy who said, "Man, I gave it a shot, but I'm already done with the Republican Party." Yeah. And you sent him a meme first time.
The gallows, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. First time here?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's get to the exit question. What should be the top priority for Maha right now if you were calling the shots, Aaron?
I would still say, I think reducing the recommendations for the COVID jab, that's a good step in the right direction, but that can't be the only step. So continue to apply pressure to pull, in totality, to pull the COVID jabs off the market.
Todd?
Yeah, no vaccine mandates whatsoever of any kind.
Sarah?
Yeah, I may make Todd crazy with this one, but the fact of the matter is you can choose not to vaccinate, right? You can choose not to medicate. You can choose not to be a couch potato and get out there and exercise. You can choose not to have your children use a screen. But if Americans don't have access to clean food without all of the toxic crap that's in it, if our food is literally poisoning us and we need food to survive, then our entire population is at risk, not just the people who choose to take a vaccine or choose medication. So I'm going with the food first.
Yeah, there's a limited amount of how much of our own food we are capable of producing in this day and age. That's a good point. All right, when we come back, the next topic is totally in honor of you, Sarah. We took this right out of your X feed. All right, we're having an assimilation update next.
Day Show.
All right, well, Sarah was just talking a minute ago about the need for clean food sources. You know, a recent study found 90% of Americans not hitting their daily protein threshold. It can be harder when we live so much of our lives on the go. And then maybe do you want to buy some of that beef jerky in the store that's loaded with all kinds of fillers and ingredients you can't pronounce? Well, Farmer Bill's has your back, and for a limited time, he's increasing the discount to 20% off for you. Boost your metabolism, stay full for longer, hit your protein goals with his air-dried beef biltong. You've seen the labels, all the other jerky companies, whatever else is in there you can't pronounce, but not with Farmer Bill's. He's like-minded with people like Sarah and many of you. So the beef is American. The ingredients are clean. His meat snacks cured with sea salt, apple cider vinegar, herbs, and spices. Grab yours today with this limited offer, 20% off with the new code Steve20. And I would recommend personally the bestseller bundle because you're getting the 4-pack of the original and the one that I liked and tried and really liked, and that's the spicy chili. All right. Plus they'll throw in a half-pound original slab, 2 of their grass-fed tallow bombs, and more to help you with your skin and moisturization as well. So order today with free shipping by using the new code Steve20 at FarmerBills, plural, provisions.plural.com. That's FarmerBillsProvisions.com. Use the code Steve20 for that discount. Code Steve20 for that discount at FarmerBillsProvisions.com. All right, welcome back to your weekly look at the week that was. We welcome back in Sara Gonzales. Let's get to issue 3, Assimilation Update.
Hillary Clinton seems to think illegals make pretty good Americans.
Return to, producing a lot of children, which is sort of odd because the people who produce the most children in our country are immigrants and they want to deport them. So none of this adds up.
Well, let's check in on how that assimilation is going. Here's WFOR TV in Miami.
This woman, who we will call Maria, says she did not want to use her real name, concerned she could be targeted. But she does want people to know her story. She told us, I don't want to go back. She's the mother of 3 children who are American citizens. She asked us not to show them. Maria arrived from Honduras in February of 2005. 2 months later, she had an order to leave the country after not appearing at a hearing, but she never left. I asked her why she did not go to the hearing. I told the immigration officer I don't have any family in this country or a specific place to stay. She told me she entered the U.S. through California. I never received any document and they did not know where I was going to be. This month she received this letter at her house in South Florida. She has been fined for more than $1.82 million.
Yeah, a woman was here for 20 years, had 3 children in this country, owns a home, and still cannot speak English. That is Miami, though. Let's go further north, like Maine. This woman's name is Eklis Ahmed. She is a policy advisor for Governor Janet Mills' Office for New Americans. She made these comments earlier this year.
It was hard. It was hard living here. It's been hard asking Sudanese people to move here in Maine. I don't particularly feel like I'm more Sudanese or more American. I fight for Sudan in all my capacity. My advice, again, is for anyone who's coming is to hold on to their mother tongue, to hold on to your culture, hold on to your religion, to your beliefs. There's no reason to assimilate.
Eklis Ahmed, policy advisor for Maine Governor Janet Mills, says there's no need to assimilate when coming to the United States. Let's try the heartland, though, where Immigration and Customs Enforcement arrested a 24-year-old illegal alien in Ohio who had forged documents in order to attend high school. In Immigration and Customs Enforcement's statement on the matter, they said, quote, "It is disturbing that a grown man would impersonate a teenager and infiltrate the lives of underage girls and boys to fool them into doing God knows what." That illegal had been here since March of 2020. I don't think the assimilation is going well.
Well, I mean, it depends. If your entire intent is the complete and total destruction of the last outpost and refuge of Western civilization, it's splendidly going. But let's get to the first question. Sarah, I'll just go with you since you're the muse for this topic. Why should invaders assimilate?
I mean, It depends on who you're asking, because they would, of course, tell you, as this woman did, that they shouldn't assimilate. But the fact of the matter is that if you're coming to this country and you actually appreciate the fact that you're coming to this country, you appreciate the American culture, you appreciate our values and our morals and what we have built here. Otherwise, you shouldn't come here, right? The fact of the matter is you should assimilate, because every community thrives and flourishes with like-minded people. Diversity is not a strength. I know, as much as the left likes to say diversity is our strength, DEI is the way to be, diversity is not a strength when you're talking about values, morals, commonalities, okay? People who share values, morals, commonalities let's look at the micro level. You would be a family, right? A family cannot survive. It is not functional without sharing these values and morals and commonalities. Then you look at neighborhoods. A neighborhood is not functional unless everyone is assimilating and they're like-minded and they're a community, right? Then you look at cities and states and the country. The people who do not share our values and are incompatible with our way of life is not a strength. It just serves to sow discord, division, chaos, especially when you're talking about people from third world countries. You've got these third world degenerates who don't know how to speak our language, cannot communicate with us, don't know how to drive, don't know how to, not decapitate people when they get into a disagreement, are eating our domesticated animals. I mean, you are talking about people from countries with very, very different values, morals, religions even. And you can't just come to this country and expect to not assimilate, to not speak our language. I mean, the most basic form of communicating with one another is verbal communication, and they are not even expected to do that. That is not a recipe for anything good in this country. Of course, people should assimilate. It's the only way to survive and flourish.
100%. That answer was a tour de force. But there's a reason why I framed the question, why should invaders assimilate? Because what you described is what an immigrant who desires to come here and be a part of something better than what he had before and bigger than what he was a part of before, you choose to assimilate into it, as our forefathers did when they immigrated here, for those very reasons. If you see yourself as entitled to something, as a victim of some kind of tyranny and oppression, and that people only have better things than you, not because their belief systems are superior to yours, because the language they speak is easier to understand than yours, because the customs they have are superior to yours, because their skills they have and talents they have are better than the current ones that you have. But instead, it's only because they're part of some patriarchal structure of systemic racism and bigotry, then you view yourself as entitled. And so therefore, you are very welcome to come and co-opt and coerce and invade and take what is yours while maintaining your own unique identity at the exact same time. I mean, for example, when we exercised our manifest destiny, we let the Indians have the reservations, but we didn't make wampum our currency. We kept our culture because we thought it was better than theirs, right? So we replaced our culture with theirs. That's what they're trying to do to us. That's the whole goal of the process. And you know this, by the way. I know you know this, but it's an important distinction. Yeah. Invaders don't want to assimilate. They just want to invade.
Yeah. I guess could I amend my answer? Why should invaders assimilate? I don't want invaders to assimilate. I want invaders to get the hell out.
Correct. They should be repelled. Right. Which is why I don't think Trump needs any Alien Enemies Act. He's got Article 2 of the Constitution. I don't even know why they're citing that stuff. Should just say, hey, I've got Article 2 of the Constitution. Great. And we're just deporting them all. So thanks. Aaron?
So why should invaders assimilate? Well, that's a trick question because the invaders don't assimilate; they assimilate you. You know, the dirty little secret. I went into this in depth a couple of weeks ago. Is that the term of whatever term of art you want to use for people who are in this country who were born in another country? The terms of art that are used, whether that's migrant, illegal alien, that's the most accurate one, okay? Migrant, unaccompanied minors, pick your term of art, refugee, they are all conflated with that latter one, refugee. They're all fleeing danger. All of their home countries are in danger. They're in danger. They're danger, and that's why they need to be here. When the reality, that's just not the case. They're choosing to come here. Mm-hmm. They're choosing to come here of their own volition in the vast majority of cases. But yet, it's all conflated with the term refugee because that tugs on the emotional heartstrings. Oh, of course we can give them refuge. We're a rich country. We're doing well. Of course we have room for 10 million extra people. I think something similar goes on here when it comes to assimilation. Now, Democrats will not openly say that immigrants, whatever term of art, illegal aliens, they will not overtly often say that they need to assimilate, but it's all often a wink, wink, and a nod, nod. That, of course, this person from Sudan that just came across the southern border illegally, why, they're more American than you are. Of course, that gets into the definition of what an American is, which should be the topic of Matt Walsh's next documentary. But that's kind of the same obfuscation that they do here, is that, of course, they want to work hard and they want to provide for their family. They're more American than you are. That's kind of how they talk about a faulty notion of assimilation, where you cannot assimilate if you've broken the law in your first act as whatever you're trying to be. That's just impossible. And that's always lost in this conversation.
Amen. Todd?
You guys are all making something out of nothing. It's not as if there's like an Islamic super city being created right in the heart of Don't Mess with Texas or anything like that. My goodness. No, honestly, the truth of the matter is, and I think it was Peachy Keenan who said it, like, if you don't understand that all these people on here, wink, wink, nod, nod, I'm doing what I'm doing for the reasons Aaron got done talking about. If you don't think their end game is actually what's going down in South Africa right now, you're just too stupid to be breathing oxygen. And she's absolutely right. That's the end game of all this, unless we stop it. But we're too comfortable. We got games to watch. I mean, it's appalling how we are really going to be the idiocracy at the end of this thing. And I think we're fine with it. I really think we are.
Bronny's got electrolytes, brother. Don't forget. Let's get to the exit question. What letter grade would you give the Trump administration's immigration work thus far, Aaron?
I'm giving it a B+, and I know that there is some consternation about deportation levels, but given the context of what they're up against, there was no Supreme Court ruling against, no, the Biden administration can't import 10 million people. But now we've got every single syllable being litigated at every single bowel of hell that is the United States court system, federal court system. So given that as the context, I'm giving them a B+, because they're trying to throw everything against the wall. Yes, eventually, and I've said this repeatedly, they're going to have to tell the courts to take a flying leap. But I think in terms of what they are up against, they're doing an okay job.
All right. Sarah, what grade would you give?
Yeah, I just almost exactly what Aaron said. I would give them a B, only because I want to see more deportations. I want to see the numbers. I think they need to be more transparent about the numbers. I used to have a live deportation tracker on my show that we showed in the corner, and then I stopped because it stuck at 100,000. And I want to give them credit. You know, what can you do when your predecessor allowed in 10 to 20 million illegals? Like, it's going to take some time, and I understand that. So I want to be a little bit, gracious there, but I just want them to be more transparent about the numbers. I know they're going up because we see these busts that are happening, but the American people need to see a true number, a true representation of how many there actually are.
Okay. B+ and B so far. Todd, where are you at?
B, but I'm grading on a curve here. The same level of activity a year from now will probably devolve into being a C. We need to
because it's a lack of progress.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the kicker topic for issue 4. What do you think should be added as grounds to qualify for automatic deportation? This can be either cheeky or serious. Aaron?
I think the dude who goes viral on the regular, who uses hotel bathrooms and various appliances that were not meant for cooking food, to cook food in hotel bathrooms. That dude. And he's also done it in an airline and gotten banned from the airline. That dude, don't know his name. I think that's grounds for immediate deportation, along with the pre-diabetic Costco family.
It's very specific. Oh, and pre-diabetic Costco families.
No, that family, not
that
families.
Family. Oh, okay.
I did not say families. There was no S in there. I said the pre-diabetic.
I'm sorry. I just meant the needle
family.
in the haystack. My bad, guys. Just the needle. All right, Todd, go ahead.
Having the name Jake Tapper.
Ooh, that'll work. That's automatic grounds for deportation?
Yes.
Sarah, how about you?
Well, I hope you'll agree with me, Steve. I'm going with Ohio State fans.
Oh, of course. I'd be fine with that.
Well, don't give it. Why are you giving him that, Sarah? Why?
No, listen. No. I'm not sucking up to Steve. This is for my own benefit because I know I root for Alabama for my husband, but I am, of course, a Texas fan. I have it against them.
You're safe down there.
I was at the game.
You're safe down there with the Muslims in Texas. We got to live with him every day.
Nice. Define safe.
Indeed. Yes. It's a relative term. All right, let's get to our predictions. Aaron, I'll let you go first.
I think within the next month, as some of these cases, immigration cases, get adjudicated through the federal court system, I do believe that there will come a point where the Trump administration, particularly President Trump himself, will just run out of patience with trying to follow the old way of doing things. And I do think he will shirk the Supreme Court on one of these immigration-related cases within the next month.
From your lips to God's ears, brother. Todd?
This summer, a resignation from the Supreme Court is coming.
Ooh.
Watch, it'll be like Alito or something, because that's our luck, right? Alito will be like, goodbye, cruel world. That'd be great. All right, Sarah, what about you?
I'm going to say Attorney General Pam Bondi is going to get pushed out of the administration before the midterms, and she will go on to, of course, become a Fox News contributor based on the hours that she's racked up there just since January.
Yeah, Pam Bondi is she's a fan favorite. I guess that's like you're safe around Muslim cities down there, right? That's the same way that she is a fan favorite, correct? Actually, the rest of the cabinet and secretary is like, yeah, to keep Pam around. All right. I mean, she's getting all the fire. Let her have it. All right. Yes. My prediction is, I shouldn't do this, but this will annoy Todd. I'm not doing it for that reason, but I'll just take that as a fringe benefit. I'm going to go out on a limb way too early. And I am going to predict that the 2028 GOP ticket is going to be Vance and Huckabee Sanders. That's going to be the ticket.
Is that annoying to me because I predict that on the show live 2 weeks ago?
Did you predict that 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, with Bob sitting right there. We talked about this. I
totally forgot about that.
I thought you were just saying it was annoying because you were just going to steal it and take the credit for it.
No, I mean, what you think I'm stealing? So we have Muslim cities in Iowa now too? I mean, this is Muslim cities everywhere. Goodness. This part of the show brought to you by our friends over at CARE. Anyway, Sarah, good to see you as always. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You bet. Have a great Memorial Day weekend. Appreciate you as always. Keep up the great work.
You too.
All right. When we come back, we'll be brought to you by the Muslim Brotherhood, and we will get to Feedback Friday. It'll be your turn. Your turn to also wish us Assalamu alaikum. Stay tuned. Back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I'm Steve Deace here on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast, but I said that already. He's Todd Erzin. He's Aaron McIntyre. You are you. Let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. Take advantage of that by emailing the show, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Don't forget also to please subscribe to our new YouTube channel, at Deace Show on YouTube. That's at Deace Show on YouTube. And then finally, we'd love it if you do this for us. Leave us a 5-star review if you love the show on your podcast platform of choice. You can also hit subscribe, or if you're on iTunes, Apple, hit follow. That makes sure every time we do a new episode, it's right there in your feed every single time. And tens of thousands of you guys have done those things for us. We can't thank you enough. Let's keep it going. Thank you very much. Also, our friends at Constitution Wealth, they've got 2 questions for you. Number 1, are you knowingly or unknowingly funding the destruction of American values with every investment that you make? And then number two, do you know if your hard-earned investment dollars are being used against the Trump administration's agenda and is it being used to threaten the very fabric of our great nation? Well, your investments, folks, should be working as hard as you do and align with your beliefs as well. Many investors don't even realize that they have the power to influence corporate policies through shareholder proxy voting and strategic investment choices. Now, that's why you want to trust the team at Constitution Wealth. I trust them with my finances, and you can do the same too. They understand what matters to patriots like us. Let's build the parallel economy by working with an investment firm made up of professionals who share our values, and join the movement of Americans who are using their investments to hold companies accountable for their ethical behavior. So take control of the future of America. And let's not get complacent. Let's visit constitutionwealth.com/blaze. Get a free consultation to get you started. That's constitutionwealth.com/blaze. And remember that Constitution Wealth is a registered investment advisor, and you should review Constitution Wealth's disclosures at constitutionwealth.com to understand their services and fees. And remember that all investing involves risk, including the risk of loss. I am a client of the firm, but this is a paid endorsement, and my opinions are my own. All right. Also, don't forget, they are going fast. There are still a few hundred copies of my new book, and you're getting the special exclusive preview, the only full-sized, hardcover, personally autographed versions of Richie Meets the Rainbow we're ever going to print. We're selling them to you guys first before the book goes retail next month, and those won't be autographed, and those won't be hardcover and full-sized. All right, so if you want that special commemorative Pride edition signed by yours truly, go to richiemeetstherainbow.com, RICHIE. richiemeetstherainbow.com is where you can go. Get them while you still can. I think there's a decent chance you might be sold out by the time we come back here on the Tuesday after Memorial Day. All right, richiemeetstherainbow.com, RICHIE, for richiemeetstherainbow.com. I promise you there has never been a children's book like this one before. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I present to you the first ever public reading of Richie Meets the Rainbow. This is Richie, a curious lad with a million questions that often drive folks mad. Why is the sky blue? Where do babies come from? And why does my teacher always look so glum? Richie loved colors. The brighter, the better. And rainbows were his favorite, each shade a treasure. But one day at school, he noticed a flaw, a rainbow with just 6 colors. What happened to them all? Teacher, said Richie, his hand held high, why does this rainbow leave out a stripe from the sky? The teacher, adorned in a rainbow-themed tee, smirked and said, that's not something for you to see. For 6 is the number, and 6 is enough. It's modern, it's woke, it's the progressive stuff. But don't tell your parents, they may not agree. We'll keep it a secret, just between you and me. Richie blinked twice, unsure of what to say, but the teacher leaned in a conspiratorial way. If your parents think otherwise, let us know. You could be our little informant and help our cause to grow. At home that night, Richie felt odd, so he asked his dad while eating some cod, Dad, why do some rainbows have 6 colors bright when the ones in the sky, they have 7 in sight? His dad put down his fork and gave him a look, then reached for the Bible, his favorite book. Richie, his dad said, his voice steady and firm, there's something important that you need to learn. A long time ago, after storms covered the earth, God sent a rainbow, a sign of new birth. 7 colors, each one with a purpose, a message from heaven and proof of a promise. The rainbow is not just a colorful arc. It's a symbol of hope that lights up the dark. Richie listened, his face growing solemn, and his dad spoke of truth, so steady and calm. Richie looked up at his dad, confused. Dad, why does my teacher say only 6 colors can be used? His dad sighed deeply, rubbing his chin with care. Sometimes people just don't want to play fair. Some try to change the truth and want us to comply. Unrepentant savages twist some symbols and lie. The 6-colored rainbow is a demonic psyop, a way to confuse people with a nefarious plot. The Rio rainbow has 7, each color with meaning. It's God's promise to us, not just some fleeting feeling. It's not just for the pride of a season gone mad. It's a sign of his grace, a gift to make hearts glad. So instead of ratting out his parents to sleazy communists filled with doubt, Richie chose to tell his dad what the teacher said, the plan that they had. His dad's eyes widened, filled with surprise. Then he hugged Richie tight with real pride in his eyes. You did the right thing, my brave little one. Standing for truth is how battles are won. That night, his dad spoke a promise so true. No more of that school, that den of iniquity is through. I'll make sure you're taught by those who love God and follow his word without bending or fraud. But that's not all, son. I will stand up for what's right. I will fight for you and your generation both day and night. Henceforth, I'll make sure those who can't speak for themselves have a say, and my presence at that local school board meeting will be an extended stay. Richie smiled wide, feeling safe in his heart, knowing that from now on his dad would always do his part. Richie knew he was lucky and felt truly glad. A good dad is something Richie wished more kids had. And again, you want to get your copy, richiemeetstherainbow.com, RICHIE. That's richiemeetstherainbow.com. All right, you guys ready for some Feedback Friday?
You bet.
All right, Feedback Friday brought to you by our friends over at Preborn. Your generosity has helped to save tens of thousands of babies from their mamas and probably saved tens of thousands of mamas' own souls from themselves as well. So let's keep it going. Let's never cease doing good, as St. Paul says, right? So if you want to make that tax-deductible donation today to Preborn, go to preborn.com/Steve. That's preborn.com/Steve. Folks, for as little as $28, you can fund an ultrasound that likely doubles the chance at life for a baby whose mama is considering becoming his murderer. Because those are about the odds, 2-to-1. That mom chooses life when she shows up at a preborn clinic. You want to make that donation today, and so many of you have. Let's keep it going. Preborn.com/Steve. You can also dial pound 250, say the keyword baby on your mobile phone, or go to preborn.com/Steve. Again, that's preborn.com/Steve. All right, guys, I want to begin here. Where'd it go? I lost my place. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Okay. Praise the Lord, we received the best news possible this week that the post-operative CT scan showed no cancer in my son's body. I've read so much research from doctors that you guys have had on the show and other courageous medical professionals that are doing the research and posting horrifying data about the COVID jab and the impact this is going to have on the population for many years to come. Gabriel and I went to his follow-up appointment in Nashville 3 weeks ago, and we were scheduled to meet with an oncologist to discuss further treatment. This doctor wanted to start a prophylactic chemotherapy regimen that was so damaging to his body that the chemo probably would have killed him on its own. So I asked her what data she had to show the efficacy of this treatment along with percentages of success for his specific type of cancer. You ready for this? She said she had zero data on sarcomas because they are just so resistant to chemo and radiation. So I thought that this was the definition of insanity. Repeat the same process and expect different results each time. This made no sense to me. So when she asked Gabriel what his thoughts were, his first statement to the group of medical professionals gathered was, "Where is the closest Chick-fil-A?" True story. They kept us in the patient room for 2 hours. And when she came in the room, she said she was in a meeting. I was able to keep my mouth shut, but my face said everything I wanted to say. Then we met with the surgeon, who was giddy with the reduction in tumor size before surgery, because she said this never happens with this type of tumor with just radiation. So I asked her what her theory was as to why she thought he had such a wonderful result. She said that it had to be from the chemo. So I said to her that I had to tell her the rest of the story. I told her about Dr. William Makis's protocol that we started that, along with a spiked support supplement from the wellness store, that's Dr. Peter McCullough's supplement, that helps people to shed the spike protein from the poison jab, and that I believed that this rare tumor was a turbo cancer from that jab that was forced on us. Her face turned to stone, and she appeared to be visibly angry. I told my son that I was prepared to go Bobby Boucher on her if I needed to. Great reference, by the way. We left shortly afterwards. Those people do not intimidate me, as my son's well-being is my only care in this. I hope and pray that this message can get out there to others who are going through similar situations and have no hope or do not know where to go after their dreadful diagnosis. There is hope, and I'm willing to share Gabriel's story with his permission to show this to the entire medical industrial complex. They don't have the right to bully and lie about repurposed medications to further their own agenda, ignoring the Hippocratic oath that they once took as doctors. Thank you for your time and keep fighting the good fight. Best wishes, Christine Cruz. What do you think, Todd?
Well, like I said, this is why story after story after story, even when it's a very positive result, why people in the Maha world who have been here for a long time, why it just actually spurs them to be more aggressive, more unapologetic, because the ridiculous, embedded, grifted nature of these lies is such that you can't, you got to take all this again momentum and keep flying ahead again. But ivermectin should be viewed as something pretty damn close to a miracle by people. But the very people who should be doing that are the ones who get mad when you talk about it, like in this letter, and either for professional want to be at the cool kids table or just flat out making money off of it. They simply refuse to let that happen. So this is a beautiful, amazing story of human persistence, but embedded in all this is just this insane ugliness that is more often than not hurting people who don't have the resolve that you do.
Mm-hmm. I want to, and this is just my nature, guys, to be a contrarian, even in situations where I agree. I want to make sure that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater here either at the same time. You know, during my own MRSA ordeal, it was conventional wisdom that basically saved my life in an ER one evening. Now, when it turned out the second time I was in an ER, it was because of an allergic reaction to the meds. It was unconventional wisdom. I mean, Daniel Horowitz, Amy got on the phone with Daniel Horowitz, and he brought one of the COVID doctors on, and she did a consultation with us. She was 100% confident, given the amount of work she had done with MRSA, that this sounded more like an allergic reaction to the high level and grade of antibiotic it takes to defeat MRSA, which is why you often end up being, brought into the hospital to take it via intravenously, because the vast majority of the population cannot take these meds orally and have your body be supportive of them. And that she was very confident in the fact that this was an allergic reaction and I was not sepsis. Now here's the thing. She was right, and that was a great diagnosis, but she was not in the hospital there and then, and she was not in position to act on her, what turned out to be proper diagnosis. Thankfully, the doctor who was treating me within the conventional system was outside my room and happened to overhear our conversation. And all he cared about was my well-being as a patient. And so he did a consult with the other doctor right then and there, who's from the unconventional system, tended to agree with her sentiments and what she was advocating, but said they also had protocols of assurance just in case I was sepsis and infectious, and what happens if they let me out. All right. And so he did everything he could based on her recommendations to speed up the process of my tests coming through and everything else to figure out if I was sepsis, even over the weekend. This was happening on a weekend, as fast as as possible. So I lived an experience where I saw both conventional wisdom save my life after railing against what it was doing to not save enough lives for the previous few years during COVID. I then saw what happened when unconventional or dissenting medicine went ahead and consulted with conventional medicine, and it probably saved my life again, right? My point being is this. There are good people and bad people everywhere. Now,
There's
agree.
a lot of bad people in conventional medicine.
You didn't let me finish my sentence. Now, I agree that systemically, the motivations within conventional wisdom are absolutely way too incentivizing of bad instincts and bad people. I completely agree with that. I do. Okay. But I also think that we, again, this is just my biblical worldview, guys. We still have to love our neighbors. We love ourselves. Right? And just like if you are a person willing to challenge the conventional system, you don't like being immediately pigeonholed as you don't care about science, you don't care about people, you're a grifter, you believe in copper, bracelets and soothsayers. Okay. Let's not do the same thing. There are people in the conventional system as well that do save lives, are trying to do the right thing and want to do the right thing. Now, I completely agree, Todd, that the overall incentivization structure as it exists right now and the results, as we talked about last hour from the latest report from Secretary Kennedy about what it's done to the youth for the last generation, the proof is in the data. The proof is in the pudding, okay? We're doing all kinds of incentivizations of the wrong instincts, but I just think we still, I think, have a responsibility on behalf of truth to take things on a case-by-case basis. That's all I'm saying. You want to add? You can add anything to that if you want to, or Aaron, you can too if you want.
No, it's just the incentivization structure, and again, in health care, do we know what that is? It is.
We know what sick care is.
Yeah, we know what sick care is. It completely changed. Well, it changed. I think it crossed the Rubicon with Obamacare, because now everything is just an algorithm. Everything is just a code.
Yes.
If you check this box, check this box,
you're a guideline, a case number.
Yeah, it does not. The system, and trust me, guys, I have had an inside picture look at this for the last 4 or 5 years as a family member has gone through medical school, and they will say much the same thing, even though we might disagree politically. They'll say much the same thing about the root cause issues with our modern medical system. Is that you are taught to learn how to basically run an algorithm. You're not taught to actually look at the human being, the patient. That's my way of saying it. And so from the word go, we're telling doctors to put on just unfathomable debt, really kind of throw them through the meat grinder before they even start to practice medicine. And then once they do start to practice medicine, everything that they've learned is not really healthcare. It's just how to treat people with an algorithm instead of treating people as people. That's just not a recipe for success on any level. And then when you take into account the broader way that the United States population actually sees healthcare, it's really just sick care. Anytime that I'm concerned or scared or whatever, you run immediately to the emergency room. And there are times that you should probably go to the emergency room. Steve, what did my wife? I think Amy was texting with my wife when you started.
When Amy said I have to go to the emergency room. Yeah, yes. She was talking to Bella.
Yes, it's like that sounds like a little bit like sepsis here. You should probably go get that checked out. There are times when that's necessary, but the system is just not designed for health. It's just not. I don't know what the chicken or egg is there, but it's anything but health care.
Yeah, I'm not against conventional medicine. I'm against lying.
100%.
And we just had another example. Jay Bhattacharya seems like a pretty cool dude. All those people walking out on him. Convince me otherwise. What were just fine. They knew that the COVID shot was going to give you myocarditis, and they not only greenlit it, they stepped on the gas and tried to cancel you in every way they could think of. Until that changes, sorry.
Well, speaking of lack of truth, Ethan McClellan says, my best friend's dad used to be a pastor and now has gone full on woke and is speaking out against almost all cultish type language. I have known this man a long time. His son was the best man at my wedding, and I've been friends with him for over 12 years. And I can remember when he was a Bible-believing, conservative-leading Christian. He used to be a pastor for a Baptist church, which is the denomination I come from. My basic question is this: how can I interact with someone who is being led astray and actively preaching that sinning is good? Well, my first piece of advice to Ethan would be, brother, you need to begin with the assumption that there may not be a way. And here's why that is so important. And I say this to everyone else in this audience who faces this. I had this happen with one of my best friends. Just literally became a completely different human being than the guy I was, just one of the best friends I ever had. I did two things. Number one, I made the decision to honor him for the man that he once was. He remains one of the best friends I've ever had. And he goes off on tangents. He's gone off on tangents against me that people have shared with me. I've never responded one time. I've never said anything critical publicly one time, because there was a time that he was one of the best friends I've ever had. And I'm not sure during some of those times I would have made it through some of those times without him. And so I'm going to honor that. I'm going to honor the man that he once was. That's how I love my neighbor as I love myself. But I need to also recognize, that there is a hell. And that I have to first love the Lord my God with all my heart, soul, strength, and mind. Which means that will cause division, correct? Yeah. And sometimes those divisions are irredeemable, correct?
Yeah.
And then the pressure comes, well, when we sense the division is irredeemable, whom are we going to ask to bend here? Are we going to ask God to bend? Or are we going to ask the human being I have, the fractured, broken relationship to bend? In this day and age, unfortunately, all too often the answer is we're going to ask God to bend. How often does God do that bending for us?
Never.
It's a real low number. What is it?
Never.
Never. That's why there's a cross. There's no bending. Now, he's happy to take the cost of the no bending and the lack of flexibility. He's happy to take it upon himself through nail-scarred hands on the cross, okay? He'll take that cost upon himself, right? But you want to reject that, well, there remains then an unpaid cost and no bending. So I think it is dramatically important that we have to accept going in that it is possible this relationship is broken beyond repair. If we don't do that, then we will be tempted to think that there are things we could do, things we could compromise, things we could yield. This is happening in many evangelical churches today. Well, if I preach on that, people won't get saved and they won't come back. That's not your responsibility. Your job is to preach the truth. You don't know the future. You don't know what decisions people will make. You don't know what's going on in their hearts. You cannot read minds. You're not an omniscient, omnipotent being. You're not transcendent. You're a human being. You don't know what you don't know. And what you do know is that you have a charge. Preach the word in season and out of season. So I think we have to start with the acknowledgement, Ethan, that this may never be the relationship it once was, and he may never be the man you once thought you knew. Now, if you are willing to accept that, here is what you need to do. Number one, you need to make sure that you are living and modeling as best as you can what you believe. And I know I say that every time these kinds of questions get asked, because it applies every single time these kinds of questions get asked. I mean, if we can't reinforce our own testimonies, that does not mean perfection. In fact, if we're imperfect, admit it. Yeah, I blew that one. Yeah, I was dumb. I should have said that. Paid for that one. All right. So if we cannot live our own testimonies, and repentance and self-awareness and penance is part of our own testimony, okay? A recognition that such as once was me. That's part of our testimony. If we cannot live that out, then our testimony has no credibility. Because here's the thing. You're not arguing truth with him. He's given up on the truth. He's post-argument, as you like to say, Todd. He's beyond the argument, okay? He's got a different truth that he's preaching, a different gospel now. So ultimately, what's going to happen here is one of you is going to testify to the superiority of your respective gospels. Why does Paul say, if Christ be not raised, our preaching is in vain and we're all still dead in our sins? Because that is the ultimate testimony that the gospel of Jesus Christ, the power over life and death, the testimony of Jesus Christ is the one truth. When Jesus says to Pontius Pilate in John 18, for this reason I came into the world to testify to the truth. How did he testify to that truth? By his death and resurrection. That's how he testified by it. That's how he confirmed it. So we have to be able, with our own testimony, to confirm our story and claim of what the truth is. That then ultimately may open up doors again if he has not totally Pharaoh-style hardened his heart. That is now where the Holy Spirit may do some work and open up opportunities again for the dialogue that is logic-based that you're talking about may be able to resume at some point. But right now, he is past that. He's what you're describing is someone with a seared conscience. He's at the end of Romans 1. He is delighting in creating new ways to do evil and encouraging others to do the same. You said he's preaching another gospel. He's preaching that sin is good. But the number one weapon we have to the truth is our own obedience to it, which just bolsters our integrity to those around us. You guys want to add anything to that here in the next few minutes? Any other advice for Ethan? He's apparently, as you said in the letter, kind of aggressive now with his new worldview. Well, he's setting the terms. Listen, it doesn't mean you have to be a jackass, but I would see him and raise him. And I have in my own life with a very close old friend that it kind of mirrors what Steve is talking about with his old friend. I haven't been gentle with him. And he reacted like he was actually shocked. And I just reminded him, you set the terms on this. You came out here hysterically, guns all blazing, taking out everybody. I don't know what you thought was going to happen, but I'm not giving you what you want. That's fair. I was honest. But I treated him like a man, and he needed to be smacked around a little bit. That's fair. I mean, they don't get to, if he wants to change his life and go fall in a hole, that's one thing. If he's going out there and doing it in your front yard. Yep. There you go.
Okay.
That's
I'll
a
give
good
you
way
what
of
you
putting it
want.
right there. Yeah.
I think, number one, much like a lot of things in God's economy, it's very paradoxical. On the one hand, there are times where you have to turn the other cheek. On the other hand, there are times when the other person needs you to not allow them to walk all over you. They need to be shown that they need to be shown some tough love, as Todd was alluding to. That they don't just get to, pardon the French here, just act like a jackwagon. They can't just do that and allow you. You're not, because of the new life that your Savior has given you. If they try to walk on you, walk all over you, if they try to abuse your friendship, abuse your time, that you're not going to have it. That doesn't mean that you need to respond in kind necessarily. But there are situations where that is warranted. There's also situations where they're just hurt and they're lashing out, and there's times where you just have to take it. Mm-hmm. But that is kind of the dichotomy, the paradoxical way in which we're here. One of the interpersonal ways in which we're here, and the reason that we're here.
Yes. Now, as men, we look for a process that gets us the result we want, right? There is no foolproof 3-point plan to getting your best friend's dad back to the land of the sane and the living. There just isn't. So you have to dispense with that right away. Okay? We're human beings, not algorithms or formulas, right? But hopefully you got some good wisdom from the three of us, at least something that can be helpful towards what can be a very hurtful cause, man. We've been there. We'll come back. We've got some stuff on immigration dilemmas. We're going to get to that here in a moment.
The Steve Deace Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, in these unprecedented times, make sure you have an agent you can trust. I don't know about your neighborhood. We've got 6 for sale signs up in our neighborhood right now. I've not seen that in a minute, at least since 2019, right? So as we are trying to make the real estate market great again in America right now as well, lots changed since the last time that was true. All right, so make sure you got an agent to guide you through all those changes in what is still kind of an uncertain marketplace and still challenging for buyers, with mortgage rates still 120% higher than they were before Donald Trump was forced to leave office the last time, right? Where would you find that kind of agent? Well, the name says it all. realestateagentsitrust.com. realestateagentsitrust.com is where you can go. That's realestateagentsitrust.com. There we're going to hook you up with an agent whose track record of success we have verified before we've recommended them to you. And a lot of times they'll be from right here in the Blaze audience. And we'll make sure that agent is either from where you are or where you want to go. Real estate agents, so they know the market is what we mean by that. Realestateagentsitrust.com. That's realestateagentsitrust.com. Are you guys ready for some more Feedback Friday?
Indeed.
Let's get into the immigration issue. I'm going to withhold this individual's name, and when you hear what this note's about, you'll see why. I've recently started a vascular surgery practice. It's in an area of my state and the country where the vast majority of people are low income. I took the Hippocratic Oath to take care of people no matter what. The hospital I'm at continues in a Christian fashion to hold its standard, providing care for people asking for help and not just as an enterprise. It is slowly becoming apparent that my hospital is being asked to take care of illegal aliens who need dialysis treatment. This would include needing dialysis catheters, permanent dialysis fistulas created for them, etc. These are vascular surgery procedures, which I have to become involved in. As far as understanding the situation, the local independent dialysis units are not spending money or resources specifically on illegal alien patients. The other hospital in town is not being asked to take care of these specific patients at all. The needs for vascular surgery care in the community and surrounding area are great. I have difficulty scheduling natural-born citizens for procedures. The illegal alien patients are definitely taking resources away from the citizens. If I take care of an illegal alien for medical care, I do get credit from the hospital for my portion of the care at the end, so I do get paid. It's not a monetary issue for me, and I have plenty of work to be done for the natural-born citizens. The dilemma is I know the hospital is taking a huge hit because dialysis patients are very, very expensive. If I notify federal authorities and the word gets out in the community, many citizens would support me, but many of the referring physicians may not. That includes the kidney doctors. I've been saying prayers for hopes of guidance. Do I not say anything and continue to do I continue taking care until at some point the hospital gets caught or suffers from the expense? Do I notify federal authorities that we might be breaking the law, and how do I do that? I do have a patient-doctor confidentiality. I do have patient-doctor confidentiality as to not necessarily expose specific patients, but I do not believe that is an excuse to overlook the whole situation. In this situation, I've started to ask myself if this is happening at many different areas in the country and in places that can hide from the obvious federal official eyes. I know there are many questions that may arise in this discussion, and I can't answer them all in a single brief email. But I truly would like to know your thoughts. So now you can see why I withheld the name here.
Mm-hmm.
This one's a lodestar. Okay. Let me say first to this vascular surgeon, you should not be in this situation. And this is not for your conscience to wrestle through. And whether it's you or other providers around the country in similar situations, systemic levels of failure had to happen here for this to matriculate down to a wrestling within your conscience at the local vascular surgeon level. So I had nothing to do with it, but I just feel like I should say, brother, and to your other peers that are in these kinds of situations, I'm sorry. Now, that being said, I do think, as a healthcare provider, that you have a different jurisdictional authority here than a law enforcement officer does. And you yourself noted that you took a Hippocratic Oath to do no harm. So, provided that lawful citizens are not being denied services, you seem to think you were concerned about that, but you weren't entirely sure. Is that kind of how you took his note?
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks.
To me, that would be the determining factor. If I were in your situation, that would likely be my determining factor. If I knew for certain that I was being asked to care for people who do not belong here in place of those who do. because now I am aiding and abetting. I'm violating my Hippocratic oath. I am doing harm to people who do not deserve it. If you do not believe in mass, that your providing of said services do get in the way of you doing so for people who are lawful citizens, then in your case, you're not a law enforcement officer. You're also not breaking the law by hiring illegal aliens like an employer would. Meaning you're not responsible for either the supply of these aliens nor the demand for them. And so I would look at it like this. If someone came in, if someone came in, let's pick a violent crime. If someone came in that you knew had beaten their wife, and he had a serious injury, he got into a fight in prison, had a serious injury, and you were brought in to help, would you do it? Yes, you would. That's the Hippocratic oath. You would. Now, you're in a triage situation. There are two patients. You only can help one. And one of them, is the guy that beat his wife. The other one, is the guy that didn't. Who you're probably going to help first? If you only help one, probably going to help the guy that didn't beat his wife, right? Okay? You see what I'm saying? Right. So if you're telling me resources are scarce and becoming scarcer, and one of those resources are you, because you have the skill necessary to be utilized for the cause of life. If you're being spread too thin and you're being utilized for people who do not belong here in place of people who do, to me that's a separate conversation. But barring that, then I think you have to uphold your Hippocratic oath and should seek to do so. And ultimately, that's not your jurisdictional authority to be concerned about the law enforcement angle of that. You are a doctor, not a policeman. That's my answer at first blush. What do you think?
Well, your very first reaction was mine. There are so many moving parts to this. And while obviously I just got done saying quite aggressively how much guilt there is to spread very wide and deep within the healthcare profession, just because you happen, it's also because of that I don't expect you to go full on white knight and bear the brunt of all the evil out there. I mean, only so much can be done by one person of good faith. So, and there's a lot of people that would just seek to punish you just because they didn't have the courage to do the right thing and you did, and they're that petty. That's in any industry, not just healthcare. That's in any industry. So yeah, I don't necessarily expect you to be a martyr about all this, but I think you are trying to find the place where it seems like if I just hit this one domino, can I set off chain reaction? Keep looking for it. Mm-hmm. Keep looking for it and be ready for it when it comes.
Man, I've often said this about police officers as a profession. It's pretty much an impossible job on some level. And yeah, there is an inclination, especially in right-wing America, that I think we expect too little sometimes of police officers because of the back the blue culture. As a default, I would be more along the lines of back the blue than obviously not. But it's an impossible situation because an impossible job because you are basically the cartilage in the knee between chaos and some degree of law and order. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, you are expected by a lot of people to do your job perfectly 100% of the time when you're put into situations that are very, very difficult. And listening to that note, it reminds me of have I talked about this on the show before? The police chase that I saw not too long ago, where he's going on it. He's in pursuit of a bad guy, and he's weaving in and out of traffic. And this police officer is simultaneously, you can hear him on the dash cam. He is angry at the criminal for putting all of these lives in danger. He's scared for all the other people out there on the road. This guy eventually crashes into a bridge, gets out of the car, jumps off the bridge, breaks his leg, and after going through this range of emotions, this police officer tells him, just stay down there, you're going to be okay, we'll get you some help. That's you're threading a needle there on so many levels because you're angry at this guy, you're scared for the people on the road, and you're trying to legitimately help this guy who just broke his leg, who just did all of that to you. Man, you're trying to thread a needle here too, on some level. Mm-hmm. Because you've got all of these competing interests of what you know is right, what you know is wrong, what you know your job is, what you think maybe your job might be, but you're not sure about it. You're at least attempting to navigate it. You're attempting to navigate it. There are way too many people in our country who just try to not have to navigate anything because we're too comfortable. We'd rather just, out of sight, out of mind. So props to you for even thinking through this on a level that most people would never even ponder because they don't want to, because it's uncomfortable.
It's very well said. All right, let's talk about another issue with illegal aliens. In 1987, while we were college students, my sister was raped and murdered by a repeat offender. Fast forward 10 years, I'm married now with 2 daughters. The anger, fear, and bitterness was making it impossible for me to parent without fear, not wanting to let this hurt my family. I knew the word forgiveness had come into play. God showed up by leading me to participate in a victim-led mediated conference with Susie's killer. Preparation on both sides took 2 years. It lasted 6 hours, and I got my questions answered and told him how his evil actions affected me. God further showed up at the end of the meeting by opening a door for me to share about my faith in Christ to him. God used this experience to free me from the lethal anger and bitterness I had. In Eau Claire, Wisconsin, our justice system did not work. In 1987, he was free on a signature bond from a previous sexual assault when he killed my sister. He never should have been free to roam the streets. The DA plea bargained, and he was charged with second-degree murder instead of first because they could not prove intent. He said he did not intend to kill her. The laws are more severe now, which are good. I can live out my faith and have been able to love my family and function well in society without God helping me to embrace forgiveness that would not have been possible. He's on God's hooks now, not mine. I'm thankful for Jesus for taking this burden and giving me his grace in this area. I love your show and how God uses all 3 of you to speak wisdom and truth in this crazy, evil age. Thank you. That's from Trisha Lenz. I misread that with another note. I'm sorry. That was not about illegal alien that committed that crime, but a repeat offender. So I wanted to clarify that from what I said a few minutes ago. But that's just an incredible story of the power of God's forgiveness. And I just can't even imagine what your family went through there, Trisha. That's incredible. But the testimony you have there of what letting go of that has done for you. And now he doesn't get to do this to your family all over again because of the toxic anger and bitterness that you've let go via your forgiveness. So that's an incredible story. Let's talk about one more story of forgiveness before we get out of here. What do you think?
Okay.
My mother was an alcoholic and suffered from personality disorder. She abandoned me and my 2 younger siblings when we were under 3. Or when I was under 3. I had to care for an infant and a toddler for days. Life did not improve. While she lost custody of my infant sister, who was adopted by my aunt, she was allowed to keep custody of my brother and I. She shortly remarried a man who abused us psychologically, physically, and abused me sexually. At age 10, she abandoned us again and left us with this man to remarry another man that abused her. I ran away at age 12 with only one place to go, back to my mom and her new husband. My mother became physically and emotionally abusive toward me at that point. I went to college after high school graduation to escape and lived out the worst consequences of my past, racking up a sin debt one can only imagine. While in the ICU after an attempted suicide, I cried out to the Lord, if you are real and if you are able to save me from myself and the darkness in my heart and soul, show me. He is faithful and has blessed me with an amazing husband and children. Living for his glory was and is a struggle, but he redeemed it all. I forgave my mom and stepdads because the Lord called me to forgive as he had forgiven me. My mom has dementia now. She never sought forgiveness or admitted to any wrongdoing, and now she never will because she doesn't remember. It may sound harsh, but I consider her dementia to be almost a mercy of the Lord. How could one face the last years of their life knowing so much harm and hurt they had done? In his grace, the Lord has placed me as my mom's guardian, and beyond all understanding, she does not recognize me as her daughter, but often believes me to be her sister or her grandmother, and so we can now find another way to love one another in peace and in grace. That is from Leanne Bello. There's just no other worldview, folks, that has stories like this. No other worldview on the planet has stories like this. Because this stuff isn't natural. It's supernatural. And every other worldview on the planet is supernaturally wrong. There is only one worldview. One. That produces a testimony like what Leanne Bello just shared with all of you here as we get ready to sign off before Memorial Day weekend. Only one. And that is the biblical one. No other worldview makes anything like this possible, remotely. Hindus say, hey, you don't have to forgive because your mom will come back as a salamander or some kind of bottom feeder for what she did, as will all those stepdads. They'll get theirs. The Buddhist says, find nirvana. Find a higher plane of existence through contemplation and meditation. The Islamist seeks retribution and vengeance. And it's justified given the amount of evil that you've been succumbed to. It is the Christian biblical worldview that provides a path to this level of mercy and grace while demanding justice at the same time. And it's the only one. Gentlemen, any final thoughts before we sign off?
Well, the Yuval Noah Hararis of the world say, sucks to suck, nothing has any meaning anyway. When all of us listening to the dichotomy that Steve just laid out, anybody, translate it into their own native tongue, they know deep down what he just said is the truth.
You got to go through the cross to get what Steve said, not the Pottery Barn Slam and Praise team. The cross.
Amen to both of you. You guys have a great Memorial Day weekend.
You too.
You guys all do the same. We'll see you on Tuesday. Until then, Romans 8:28.